Hello and welcome to the Loopjepad podcast, or should I say the Walk Your Walk podcast, because today is the first episode in English ever. With good reason, because I interview summer school teacher Bryre Roots. Bryre guides women into a state of love, health, and purpose. And in today's episode, we talk about her journey, which started in Australia, where she earned loads of money as a topless waitress. But when a boy, which she fell in love with, asked her to come with her to Bali, her immediate response was, "Yes, I will go with you." And there she discovered her dharma or purpose for Ayurvedic teachings, healing, and guiding. And we talk about the hurt of getting rejected, universal flow, female sexuality, and the importance of having a supportive tribe on your journey. So sit back and relax and enjoy the interview I had with Bryre Roots. Hello and welcome to this new episode. And today will be the first one ever that I will be hosting in English. This is the Walk Your Walk podcast. And we are doing it in English because I'm sitting here with Bryre Roots. And you pronounce your name so much more beautiful. Good morning, Bryre.
Good morning. How are you guys today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good. I feel a lot of joy right now, especially sitting here with you and connecting with some beautiful Dutchies.
Yes, because you are right now, I can see at the video that you are sitting in a little paradise spot. You are at Bali right now, right? That's where you live, but you're not from Bali.
No, I'm from England originally, but I've been living in overseas for the last 8 years now. So I lived in Australia for 5 years and Bali now for 3 years. Yeah.
Beautiful. So every interview I start because I already hear so much things I want to talk to you about how come you moved from England to Australia, now to Bali, what happened there. And usually the stuff comes up when it comes up during the interview. And I always start because this is really about your own process, your journey, what happened on your path. And I usually start with the question on that journey, what was one of your deepest lows? And then later I would love to hear also an extreme high. So maybe you can take us with you on a low moment, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, we can. I was reflecting upon this today. I think we all have low moments in life. That's the beauty of life, I think, because we go from low to high to low. And, how would we know what the high is if we didn't experience the low? So as I was in the pool and I was reflecting upon this question, and it's funny because back a couple of years ago, I think my low then is definitely different to my low now. And that's really just because of my way of reacting to the low. And I think the last couple of months have been quite transitional for me. And I've probably experienced the biggest low of my life, of my 26 years of life, in the last 3 months. However, because I believe the tools and the techniques that I've learned along the way, it's really helped me jump back to a state of love, joy, gratitude, inspiration a lot quicker than previously when I've had a low and I didn't have these tools available to me. So the last 3 months, I have been separating with my ex-partner of 2 years. I honestly thought he was, the father of my children, the love of my life. We've been living in Bali together for 2 years. He's Dutch. He's a Dutchie. I met him in Bali. And yeah, I moved out literally a couple of weeks ago into my new little place, my new single place with my dog.
It's beautiful.
And yeah, I think that it's probably been a very transitional time for me, going from living with him, and the last like year and a half I've been growing my business. Like a year ago I had like no money, no purpose. I didn't really know what direction I was going in. um, I was actually going to go back to New Zealand. I was living in Australia previously, and it kind of, this will intertwine with my low, so it's a little bit of a bit of
It's
story.
good. It's always like that. Like I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to go straight in with the low because I thought it kind of needs to feed in
Mm-hmm.
through the journey. I'm sure people can relate maybe. But yeah, I was living in Australia for 5 years, and that was beautiful. That I had a crazy time there. I was pretty wild, not gonna lie. I was a topless waitress, working on boats, and they call it in Australia skimpy. So
Skimpy?
yeah, a skimpy. Yeah.
What does that mean anything? Like I
Well,
can
it
I don't know. I'm not a native speaker.
it means like skimpy clothes. You know, when you wear like skimpy small bikini clothes.
Ah, okay. Mhm.
So
Ah,
it's
okay. Yeah, I get it. Mm-hmm.
So it's like so skimpy, in Australia they have a lot of miners, and what happens is they fly out and they go to Australia and they go and live in the mines, and they don't see women for like months on end. So all these horny guys are like desperate for hot chicks, and what they do is they have this, like, it's a bit sleazy, but they have like pubs, and what they do is they hire skimpies. So at these mining towns they hire these, like, backpacker girls like me, young and just wanting to make cash, and we would basically go around in, like, like Hooters, like in America,
Yeah, yeah.
a bit like that. You go around and you're wearing like your little bikini, and you're all dressed up, and basically they tip you and you earn lots of money. And yeah, it was a job I did for about 5 years, and I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. However, I think my soul desperately wanted to evolve and wanted to, well, I think I know I had this deep desire to become something. And when I don't know if any of you can relate, when you're not fulfilling your potential,
Hmm.
you had that, like, that in the mind. You're like, come on, like, you're not doing what you're meant to be doing. Like, there's something else out there for you. But the thing was I was earning really good money, which I never had before growing up, not in a very wealthy family. And for me, it was like, oh, I made it. Like, I'm making a ridiculous amount of money, having fun, traveling. So in my mind, my ego was really attached to the material stuff, traveling and buying nice clothes and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, that kind of transitioned to coming to Bali because my visa got declined. And then, long story short, I couldn't get back to Australia, and my ex-boyfriend at the time was Australian, and we were going to do like this relationship visa just so I could get back to Australia. However, the universe obviously wanted me to be in Bali, and now I realize why. So we actually ended up breaking up because I was going down the yoga and the Ayurveda and the spirituality route, and he was completely not on that path. He wanted me to be like a housewife, drive a Range Rover, and I'm sure if I had gone back to Australia, I would have probably gone down that route and never found the passion that I'm doing now. So it all worked out how it's meant to. But yeah, so coming it back into to Bali, and then I was living in Bali for a year before I met my other previous boyfriend. And I was living in Bali, and I was traveling around Bali, but really just living off the money that I had earned being a skimpy. Eventually that money went out and my ex-boyfriend and I broke up, so I had no means of support. And I was about to go live in New Zealand Ooh, that was the door.
Okay.
Sorry. I was about to go live in New Zealand because my dad lived there, and I was going to do the same job in New Zealand. So I was going to go from being a skimpy in Australia to doing it in New Zealand, because I was like, I just want to make money, and that's all I kind of knew. I had really low self-esteem. I hadn't really tapped into that creativity and my power yet. And I really just thought, like, I'm only good for my body and my looks and, all of this stuff. And it's only until a couple months before I went to go to New Zealand, I met my ex-partner, at the time, current partner. And he's a coach, and yeah, he ended up coming to New Zealand with me. We did like a little road trip, and he was like, come back to Bali and live with me, and I'll help you set up your business and help you get to where you want to get to, so you don't go back to doing what you don't really like, and you know that you have so much more to give than that. So that was kind of like the catalyst moment, was returning back to Bali, and really starting on my yoga Ayurveda journey to become a holistic practitioner. And I think so the last couple of months has been a bit of a transition, because him and I have now split up. And yeah, I really thought he was going to be the man of my dreams, and obviously it was not meant to be at this point. And yeah.
So what makes this, so you say that probably this last few months are more intense than the low you've experienced before, but you handle it differently, or you have a different set of tools, or you have grown as a person, and so it doesn't feel like that. What can you explain a little bit more about that? Like, what do you know now that you didn't knew before? What makes it different?
I think that for me, it's really the practice that I've been embodying, the spiritual practice and the teachings of yoga and Ayurveda are basically, how do we suffer less as humans? And that really is the point of why we're here. It's not to suffer, it's to love, it's to, be in alignment, it's to serve, and it's to have fun. And the mind and our ego keeps us in this suffering. It keeps us in this this detachment from other people, in comparison, ego, fear, anxiety, jealousy. And I think especially when I was living in Australia and I was doing that kind of work, it was bringing out, like, I was around people drinking all the time, and I was just not in a healthy environment. Whereas in Bali, it's, I'm surrounded by people all ambitious, growing, and really living more of a holistic lifestyle. So I think that's been a very big shift for me, is being an environment that supports my growth, instead of one that keeps me playing small. I guess I never really knew that I could grow into somebody else. I always thought I was just going to stay at this level. So I think for me, it's been learning specific tools and techniques like meditation, yoga, types of food to eat, cleanses, all the stuff that I'm going to be talking about next week on the masterclass, that's really been powerful in my life and my transitions to really, suffer less. Like, even though we're always going to go through, suffering in life, it's like, how can we jump back to a state of love, joy, gratitude, inspiration, and not suffer for as long. So I think for me, it's the key thing I want to get out here is, we're always going to suffer, for sure. We're going to have to sit in discomfort at some point. But, how long are you going to sit in that discomfort? Are you going to sit there for a week, a month, a year, and, be in your mind? Or are you going to be like, look, this has happened. My ex and I have broken up. I've had to move house. I've had to change my whole life around. But I know that there's something else waiting for me, and there's a reason why this has happened. And you see that shift. It's like the universe is happening for me instead of against me. Whereas back a couple of years ago, I'd be like, why is this happening to me? Like, this is shit. Like, I'd play the victim,
Right. So you're not trying to control it or to patch up the relationship, or to you're just letting it go and flow. And you're trusting that I love that. You are drinking a coconut. That's so cool. That's really Bali. That's really Bali to me. The listeners to the podcast don't know what just happened, but you drank out of this giant coconut. I don't know. I loved it. I don't know what I was saying, but okay. Yeah. So you are now taking life more in the flow where universe wants to have you, and that's why, even though the events can be very intense, you still feel like you can trust that it's okay and that you can follow the stream. Is that maybe a little bit what you said?
Yeah,
Basically.
it's like it's just what you said. It's a deep trust. It's like a knowing, when you're in alignment with your purpose, when you're in alignment with, we call it dharma, that it's always guiding you to better things or things that are more in alignment with you. So I have that deep faith that whatever's meant to be is meant to be. And I think that helps you suffer less, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Because you said earlier that, like, maybe even still 1 year ago, I don't know if I remember correctly, you didn't really know what your purpose was. Is that true?
Yeah, it was probably about, sorry, maybe a year and a half ago. Like
Okay.
I've been doing this work for about a year and a half now, but really now I've obviously, we grow so much, but I feel like back then it was, we can only meet people where we're at. And at that point in time, I was doing like, consultations and stuff like that, but I wasn't really guiding people through more transformational journeys that I've been on because I hadn't really embodied it yet. It was more textbook learning, when you're just speaking from the
Yeah.
mind, you're not really embodying it in your heart. And people can feel that it's not as authentic. But when you've been in your field for 5, 10, 15 years, it's like brushing your teeth. You can share this wisdom, you can digest this wisdom, and really speak from a place of truth, and not from the mind. It's very, does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
so it does make sense. So it's so funny because the dharma, the purpose is always already there, but you first have to go through the journey yourself before you can truly embody it. But then still, at the beginning of your journey, you already kind of know, like, okay, I'm here to teach people, or I'm here to, to guide people. So obviously you are going to start with that, but it's still very mentally or very rationally. And then when you walk your own journey, it gets this added layers or depth. So it becomes even more your purpose, or more living your purpose. That's how I experienced it. So when I look back, I studied psychology,
wow.
and I was already then, busy trying to help people, but it was all very mentally. So it was only since I started to walk my own journey, to open my heart, and to embrace the magic of the universe, that I feel like, oh, okay, now I'm helping people on a so much more deep level.
Yeah, yeah.
So if people are listening now and they feel like, okay, oh my God, I also want to find my purpose. I want to know why I'm here. What would you say were the signs for you? Like, how did you navigate through life to find more and more, okay, this is why I'm here?
That's a good question. Well,
Yes.
I believe purpose and dharma, we call it in yoga Ayurveda. It's with us. It's literally been with us. We're born with it. We know exactly what we're here to do, but along the way we have conditions, we have patterns, we have fear, we have ego, we have all this bullshit that we accumulate, toxicity, the relationships that we get into, the work environments, etc. So it's really a remembrance. So it's really, when we are alignment with our intuition, with our body. And that's why I love Ayurveda, because Ayurveda gets us really clear in the body. And as soon as we can clear out toxins on a physical level, but also on a mental level, clear out the mind. That's why we use the meditation, yoga and Ayurveda, sister sciences. So we can't have one without the other. So for me, it was really starting my journey into yoga. That was like the entry point for me, was becoming less in the mind, more present, because I was just so caught up in myself. I was so self-absorbed. I didn't really care much about anything but myself. I was very one-dimensional. And I think when I started discovering that was more to life than just external, and when I started to go a bit more internal, that's when I started to realize that we are so much more than the mind, that we have so many beautiful superpowers, but we haven't been able to tap into that potential yet, because we're so caught up in fear and anxiety, and we're constantly chasing the next best thing, because we're not whole and complete. We feel this sense of lack instead of wholeness. So that for me, it's like, as soon as we start to become more present, we start to feel that wholeness, and we realize that, you know, everything that we're seeking, we already are. And that's really like the journey of purpose. It's like, fuck, like we've been, you know, chasing this like next high, this next job, promotion, girl, boy, like whatever. And we forget, you know, who we are in that process and why we're here. And it's really just unpacking all of the stuff that we've learned, and fine tuning what really makes us happy and feel whole and in love with life.
Yeah, and because before you mentioned that when you got the job as a topless waiter, skin piece, um, you felt like you made it. Like, okay, I'm earning the money. And when you mention all of this, it's such a big contrast, right? Between what does it mean to have made it or to be successful, or before it was about the appearance and about earning the money and maybe getting the validation through how my body looks, versus now it's more about the inner beauty and, you know, the love and all of that.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I say this a couple of times. It's like I used to get paid by men because of the way I looked and, you know, my sexuality and like being flirtatious and, you know, manipulating basically, which is, you know, we all have these good and bad tendencies. And that job brought out my competitive nature. It brought out my lower, we call it in yoga, like our lower tendencies, which is like the not so conscious parts of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think doing this work, now I'm getting paid by women to empower them and to help them feel confident in their body and find their purpose and be more confident about who they are. And for me, that's been such a big journey because I was so I was externally like very confident and very like, oh, I'm amazing, but internally I was like this, you know, little girl that was like just desperate for love and validation. And I think doing this work, it's healing me on so many levels. Like seeing women go through their own journey, for me it's like my medicine. I believe.
Yeah, because it says a lot of, you already mentioned also, so it says a lot about your own like self-esteem, right? Where you get the love from. So before it was all externally, and now it's more internally, and you help other women to find that in themselves also, basically.
Yeah, it's like all of the things that I've learned the last couple of years, like being on my spiritual kind of journey in Bali, finding myself, cliche. It's like all of the practices and the tools and the teachers that have inspired me and really got me out of my own limitations, and helped me expand my worldview, my appreciation, my gratitude, all of these things that have helped me. I'm really just offering them to other women because I know they've been powerful in my life. And I think, you know, that's why I love yoga and Ayurveda Tantra, because it's an ancient tradition that's been around for thousands of years. So these practices for self-realization, for self-empowerment, for self-healing, there's a science behind it. So it's not like they're not my things, they're just things that I've learned and I'm passing on, but they have this wisdom of knowledge behind them. So they're very powerful.
Yeah, especially because it's your own journey, and you can relate, and you can put that also in your work. And still, when I look at your Instagram, for example, there is still a lot of you know, like sexuality, but not in a how do you say this, like not in a cheap way, but it's just like, it's beautiful. I love watching how you express your femininity or your sexuality. So what do you think is what can we as a collective, we women, learn about that? Like, what do we need to learn about our sexuality and expressing that? Because for so long, I think it has been distorted. We haven't been able to truly connect to it, or we were trying to be beautiful for other women, other men. So what do you find in your work or in yourself that is important that we learn as women?
I honestly think the most powerful healing thing that really helped me is finding a beautiful tribe of women, whether that be your friends or your clients. Like for me, it's my clients too. Actually, they're like my friends now, all of them. I think since changing my environment and being with women that really inspire and empower me to be my best version, I and they keep me in alignment too, but in a loving, sweet way. But I feel like I've really come into my own womanhood, and I feel very safe to express myself in a and we're sexual, most of us are we're expressive sexual beings, like, we want to be desired and we want to express ourselves, but we have so much fear of being too much or being too less, or this. So I think when you're in a supportive group of women that have your back, they tell you with so much love if you're doing it for attention, or if you're just doing it because you want to express yourself. And I think when we have that when we come back to that childlike essence of play and a flow and a fun, and really that's just community. And I think so many of us don't have community. I know I didn't have when I lived in Australia and when I lived in England, but since being in Bali, I have this beautiful community of women, and they really inspire me to grow into my best version. And that really helps me come into my femininity and express myself in the purest way, coming from a more of a heartfelt place instead of an egoic place. Because I'm not in comparison with them anymore. Like I used to be in comparison with women because I was lacking self-love. And now the more self-love I build, I mean, it's a never-ending process, but the more self-love I build, the more I see women as a collaboration, collective collaboration like this right now. It's so powerful. Women are so powerful when we come together as a team instead of separate.
I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's also maybe a little bit of um, well, in Dutch we have a saying like the rode draad, the red thread. So it's in your journey, like you have encountered, like people were really important for you in your journey. Like you have encountered at the perfect timing, and you were open to it. Your previous boyfriend, who said to you, come back with me to Bali." I think that's beautiful. Like the match was there, he said it,
Yeah.
and you accepted it, so you were already at the place where you thought, yeah, okay, might be fun. And then you right.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned also the community of women and all the healers and the teachers at Bali. What would you say? I think this is an impossible question to answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Who on your journey was the most influential, or what teacher or what teaching, or do you have one specific quote or person that comes up when I ask you this question?
I mean, I have a couple of teachers. I think they've actually always been males. I don't know why. I have a few males, but I honestly believe the biggest spiritual teacher in my life has been my ex-boyfriend, Jord. He has taught me so much about myself and helped me grow so much as a person. And I think it's because he see the power in me that I hadn't seen in myself. Like he saw the potential in me, and he always said that. He's like, I saw how much power you had, but you just were so not aware of it. And it's so beautiful because when you, like, for example, like being a coach right now, I see that now within other people. And I think that's so beautiful, is when you can see something that somebody else doesn't, and you can guide them into their power, but let them do it themselves, but give them the support and the love, because healing and growth is all about support. It's all about connection. And that's been the biggest the reason why I've grown so much in such a short pace of time with my business is because I've been in a supportive environment with my friends, with my teachers in Bali, at the practice, in the studio. and really the partner as well, like that. I have such a beautiful support network. So I think for me, that's been the biggest spiritual teacher, is being in a healing place like Bali. Obviously not everyone can, come and live in Bali, but I think your environment is a very important important part of your growth and your development as a person, especially your spiritual connection to yourself and to others.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. There's this quote saying, how do you translate it? Like you get traumatized by yourself, but you heal with other people. Like, so the traumas come because you feel like you are separate, and you in your bubble feel like you are lacking. But then to be able to open that up, you need other people to reflect, to invite you, to maybe hurt you also, to see that, to make you feel like, okay, no, but I deserve more, I want more. So that's exactly what you mentioned right now.
Yeah, like I believe there's another quote that's like, you can't heal in the same place that made yourself sick.
Right.
So I mean, like, I've just now moved to, like, I was living with my ex in a beautiful, amazing house, like for 2 years, and now I've just moved into my own beautiful house. But like, I know that, like, I had so much attachment to leaving because I had grown so much in that house and had beautiful memories. But even though I'd grown so much, I'd also had a lot of arguments and a lot of tears, and that memory of that, like, that would have stayed with me if I'd carried on living at the house. I mean, I couldn't, because it's way too expensive for me on my own, but I couldn't have carried on staying there. But I had this deep attachment to it, like I didn't want to leave. But now, like, I'm in this beautiful little villa. It's small, but it's like perfect for me. I feel like it's my healing space. Like, I feel already like I'm healing because of it. Like, if you've been through a breakup, I'm sure many of you have, it's, it can be really painful, especially when you live in a very close environment. So I see him quite often, and it's always like, we're still kind of not friends, but we're still being nice to each other, of course. But you need that space, you need that closure to move on.
Definitely. And I like that. I love that. I have like a completely different example of that, which is not as intense as a breakup. But I have this beautiful office space here, which is very, like, it's big. I can host group events here. It's beautiful. I have so much good memories here. I'm only here for a month. No, I'm not a month, a year. But suddenly I felt like it's not the place anymore. Like, you have to let it go. There's something else out there, and especially it's on this industrial territory here, so there's no trees, there's no green. So I really felt like, okay, I need a more breathing place for me and my clients. So how do you say it? I said, like, I'm going to leave the place, and now I know that I'm leaving. I feel all these memories, like, oh, it's so sad.
Yeah.
But still, I know that the thing that will come up next is for the next phase in my business and in my personal journey. It's where I need to be. It's not here. So, and that's scary because you don't know what will be. I think you mentioned it, like, I'm going into the unknown right now, and it
Yeah.
feels good, but it also feels scary. I think that's where I'm at, like, now, business wise, with my office space. Like, it feels good to say goodbye to this one, but I don't know what I will get back. And I trust that it will be perfect. But you don't know you don't know how it looks like. So it's like,
Yeah, I get that. It's just letting go of attachment, which is a big one in yoga. It's Viagra. It's like letting go of the attachments that we have, whether it's people, places, material things, and that's like a big thing when I was not going to be doing the skimping, like not earning $7,000 a week. Like,
okay.
I had my
Okay.
heart was like, what? I'm not going to
Yeah.
make that much money. But it's like, now I have so much more fulfillment, like earning way less, but doing something I'm so passionate about, and still living a beautiful life, but just different.
Yeah. So why is it so important aspect of the yoga that you do let go of the attachments?
Well, I think, we only suffer when we're either thinking too much in the future, because what happens is when we're thinking in the past or we're thinking in the future, we're not in the present. And really right now in this present moment, is there anything that's going on that we're worried about? Like nothing. Like we're enjoying this conversation. Hopefully people are inspired by it, or they're getting something from it. And, open and vulnerable. There's nothing bad right now. Like we are having a beautiful connection. Whereas if I was in my mind thinking, how's this going to look? Or maybe people don't like it. Or, and then you're completely taken out of this present moment, which is beautiful, because my mind is tripping on me like, oh, how are you going to look on camera? And then I'm not being present, and that's not authentic. And that's when we suffer. Like I suffered for sure, because I had in my mind that my ex and I were going to have babies, and he was going to, be my baby dada. And, we were going to have a house in Portugal and a little farm. And that reality is, not happening, and I'm fucking suffering. And I'm like, but how can I suffer less? Like, how can I suffer less? And it's not that you can't have dreams and futures, but don't get too attached to the future. That, I always say that we are the creators of our reality, but we also have to have practice, experiencing not having it as well, because then we suffer less, but we're also open to the universe giving us something way better than what we actually thought we wanted.
Yeah, definitely. So I wrote down, so we want to let go of the attachments because it is in the way of being authentic, like living our true potential, being the most true version of who we actually are. It's like it's cluttering the true source.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, I think Eckhart Tolle says, like, it's just the ego that wants to attach to something, because the ego wants safety. The ego wants it wants to be heard and seen. So if I'm attached to something that may or may not happen, I feel safe, because it's giving me this false sense of identity or a label. Oh, in the future we're going to have babies and we're going to be happy. What about right now? Like, what are we doing right now that's beautiful? Or, if we're thinking about the past, oh, I could have done this differently, I could have said this differently, then we're just creating this like anxiety for ourselves that's so unnecessary. So when we learn to still the mind, we can observe those thoughts and question, is this serving me constantly being here or there, instead of right now, right here in this moment with you.
I love that. I'm going to stare into your eyes for a couple of seconds. No, I really do love that, because it's funny. It's so it is exactly that. Like the ego holds on to so I can wait. Okay. Oh my God. Blah 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 blah. So the ego holds on to yeah. So the holds yeah. I need to slow down, but I just got this insight.
Get it out.
Because what people often think when you say, okay, let go of attachment, they can see the advantage of letting go of trauma or negative beliefs, or the stuff that wasn't pleasant. We all want to let it go, live in the moment, but it's also letting go of what was fun and what was joyful and what served you, but just like that also ends sometimes. And clinging on to that is also the attachment. It's also the ego. Like you had a beautiful experience with your boyfriend and you've grown so much and you had a future that was beautiful, but so that ended. And for me, the stupid example of The Office, I had so much memories here, which was beautiful, but also that has ended. So if you try to hold on to that, you are kind of disrupting the flow. Exactly. And then it's never coming back. It's not like, so if that in your phase of life, it was important for you to have what was his name again? George?
Your,
Right?
yours. Yeah.
George. Oh, George. Okay.
I would laugh if anyone knows him on the podcast.
George, you're on the podcast. It's often that the partners come join on the
Yeah.
podcast in the
Oh,
conversation.
that's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, because for that phase, it was beautiful that you were together, but staying together doesn't mean that's coming back or that it's elongating. And I think that's really, really, if you get that, that's like huge.
Yeah, we have to be willing to let go of who we are to really become who we're meant to be.
Right.
You know, if we have this false sense of, oh, I have to be this because then I'll feel good or have validation or be loved more. But, you know, in that process of, it's like we always want the outcome instead of just enjoying this moment or the journey to get to where we're going. That is the medicine. Like, I think I had in my mind, I want to be a very successful Ayurvedic practitioner, have a podcast, have an online course, doing retreats, you know, and I know I'll have that eventually. But it's like I need to enjoy the process instead of like seeking for the outcome, because really the lessons are in the journey, you know, not just the outcome. It's the journey that we need to go on that makes us who we are.
Yeah. And maybe, like you said, I know I have that. And I'm sure, like, if that's your purpose, you will have that. But I think the highest is that you can also accept that, and maybe I don't. Like, maybe maybe it will be completely different, and then that will be so amazing and beautiful. I think
Yeah.
that's where I'm at right now, because I had so much visions, and it all starts to shift and change. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not that. Like, maybe it's something completely different, and that's also fine. I'm accepting that it's okay. That it's completely different from what I thought it would be.
Having non-attachment to the outcome.
Yeah, definitely. So have we, in what we've discussed so far, have we touched upon your high? Like, we have discussed the low and we have discussed a lot, but the high, like the highest high.
High. Wow. I feel like right now I think for me, I think right now I posted a picture today actually saying, I looked down at my feet and I realized that I have everything that I need and want and more. And that's really, right now, I feel like I'm in a beautiful apartment, villa. I have a beautiful dog, nourishing friendships. And I've just really I'm coming into this space right now. I've been in relationships for the last 5 years, like not the same one, but different people. But in the last 5 years, I haven't really been single, haven't really been with myself, and being okay to just be with myself and not need external validation through a relationship. And I'm putting all my energy now into my clients and growing my business and my projects. And for me, I feel like this is a real sense of empowerment that I have been afraid of for a long time, because I never knew that I could be on my own. I always thought I needed a man, or I needed someone to provide for me and help me. So I'm really like enjoying this process of like giving myself everything that I seek within a man. I'm really trying to honor myself and give to myself. And that really is my high, I think, because I've never experienced this before. So it feels like a sense of, empowerment. Also a little bit of fear, but trusting that it's all meant to be, you know, and I know that it will unfold how it's meant to. And I'm enjoying that process right now.
That's amazing. I can also use you really are, you are glowing when you talk about that. Like, I can really feel it through the camera, like the sense of power and excitement also, even though there's a little bit of fear, but mainly I feel the excitement.
Yeah, I think it's funny because like when you've been in a relationship as well, like for a long time, you forget almost like I can get up in the morning and do what I want and like not have to ask, like, do you want to go coffee together? Do you want to have breakfast together? I'm just like, I'm going to go for a beach walk and then I'm going to get coffee and I just don't have to ask anyone. And I feel liberated. I feel like there's a part of me, like I've never lived by myself before. I'm only 26, but I've always lived with either friends or with family or with boyfriends. So I'm really enjoying just like not having to answer to anyone but myself and just being selfish. It's really, really nice. I really like
Yeah,
it.
I can totally relate to that. It's what I feel when I'm on a weekend by myself, not with my boyfriend or my child. And that's the most amazing part. Like usually I don't do really wild stuff, or it's not that I'm going to experience a lot of, different. It's just the fact that I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. That's the beauty of going by myself. So I can totally relate to that. And it also reflects on you, like how much you are still, maneuvering around or together with someone. Because immediately I think, wouldn't it be great if you could also have that when you are together? But that's so difficult. Like you are automatically kind of adjusting or taking into account the other person.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I love, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a love addict. I love being in love. I love having a man that I can worship and just, cook for. I love that as well. But I also realize right now my focus is my dharma and it's my clients and it's building my business. So in the future, when I do have another beautiful relationship, I can give maybe a bit more to the relationship because I've set these these systems in place that are going to help me have more freedom and have more time for when I have a family and when I have when I want a little bit more connection with my family and stuff like that. But right now I'm being a little bit selfish and I'm like, I need to focus on me and that I'm my biggest priority. So I'm learning to fall in love with that and be okay with that process of loneliness and sometimes feeling a little bit sad, but knowing that it's for a higher purpose and I'm trusting that that will guide me in my decisions and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think for everyone who's watching or listening, that it's a very, very good reminder that it is like in the process of becoming, it's kind of always the case that you need to be a little bit selfish, because you are shifting, you are doing things differently than before. And if you are taking into account every time the other people's opinions, you cannot move. There's no movement. So you are saying like right now I'm being a little bit selfish, but I think it's not going away. Like once you found it, it cannot you cannot give it up anymore, and it will not feel selfish anymore. It will feel like, okay, yeah, this is a match for me because I can be myself still.
I think we just like I noticed doing some self-reflection of like the last couple of months and like where I'm at and my tendencies of like how I can become very codependent in a relationship and I want to give everything to that person. I lose myself in the relationship and I forget that I need to nourish myself first and I am my number one priority. And even just like the last couple of weeks I went on a couple of dates and had some intimate time with this beautiful man, and I noticed myself going straight into these patterns of like oh, as he texts me like all of my energy was going towards him and I was not being as on point as I normally am with my work. And I noticed that my creativity wasn't as high and my productivity. And I'm like, and you know what? On Saturday, I got a message from him saying like, I think it's better that we cut contact at the moment, and we need to focus on whatever we need to focus on. And I've never been, and he said other things as well. I won't go into details, but I've never felt that sense of rejection before by a man, and I was so shocked. And I sat with my emotions the whole day. I didn't eat anything. I felt I had so much pain in my body. I was like, oh my God, I've been rejected. Like, what's wrong with me? And, all these thoughts came up in my mind. And then I realized, I had this like realization moment in my day depression that, you know, no one can reject you. You can only reject yourself. And I was like, fuck, I'm fucking amazing. Like I'm not rejecting myself. Okay. This has happened for a reason. It was because I was putting all my energy onto him, and my focus now is my purpose, my dharma. And I know it, you know, deep down when you know you're not on point. So this was just the universe giving me another little sign. Like the universe is always giving you signs. And if you don't listen, they get bigger and bigger and bigger until you get smacked in the face. And then you have to wake up and listen.
Right.
Whether it be a health issue or a breakup or whatever, you know, life is always guiding you on your path, back on your walk, you know, to walk your walk. It's guiding you. But, you know, sometimes we just lose that connection to ourselves. So we need to remember how to get back on. And that's where the yoga, the meditation, and the practices to connect in help us remember that.
I love it because also this brings us back to the beginning of the conversation where you said, okay, I may experience more intense lows than before, but the whole process is different. Like now you felt this incredible feeling of rejections. You had one day of depression and then you got an epiphany, and then, you know, you were maybe not completely over it, but you caught yourself, and that's so quick. Like I think that's maybe one of the biggest gifts you can give yourself is to help yourself get through those emotions and through those feelings and be aware of them, because then you can, you know, move on and you know, live your life and be present in the moment.
Not suffer. How can we
Not
jump back to
suffer.
the state of
Right.
love, joy,
Right.
gratitude? That's my question. And I tell the listeners, the thing that really helped me was I started doing this EFT tapping for my clients. So it's funny because I was researching about it to help with my clients. So it helps get out tension and emotional in the body, emotions in the body. So I was sat there on Saturday, even though I'm afraid of rejection, I love and accept myself. Even though I'm afraid of rejection, I was tapping myself, and these floods of tears were coming through. And I think it was previous relationship stuff too, but I felt more pain from that rejection than I have felt in a long time. But I know I needed to go through that breakthrough to be, you know, to be able to express this and hopefully share with you guys. So it's all part of the journey, even though it fucking hurt and it was really painful. And I'm dreading if I see him around Canggu now, because I'm like, oh, I'm so rejected, and you know. But I have to get over that ego shit and just remember we are beautiful, and I am enough, I have enough, I do enough. That's my mantra.
I could go on for hours with this conversation, but I think we should save it for another time. Yeah, because I feel like we have covered already so much, so I don't want to overdo it for the listeners. But there is one final question that I want to ask you is, and I always ask them to anyone, but if you feel like you've said it all, that's great. But what are your final words of wisdom for listeners that are walking their walk? And that's it. Final words of wisdom.
Okay. The best and most effective time to act is when you first hear the call to do so. That is when the forces of nature are powerfully aligned to help you achieve your aim. By Rod Stryker, one of my amazing teachers. His book is called The Four Desires. Highly recommend. It's life-changing. But yeah, when you hear the call to do so, go with it. Don't question it. Don't analyze it. Do it, because it's your intuition, and that's guiding you on your walk, on your dharmic path of purpose, which will give you the most fulfillment and joy and get you over any heartbreak, because you know you're in alignment with what you're here to do.
I love that. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. It gave me goosebumps all over. Thank you, Bryre, for this beautiful conversation. I loved it. I said I loved it for 1,000 times, but you just bring that up in me. I never say that, but you just,
I love connecting.
I love it.
I love it. I love the Dutchies. Like I went out with one, but you know, the Dutchies have a close soft spot in my heart. They're so beautiful and open and loving. So I'm grateful to be on your beautiful summer school. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, summer school. So next week will be the masterclass. So I'm really looking forward to participating and soak up your wisdom and knowledge. So thank you so much for this conversation.
My pleasure. Harry on. Mwah.
Het waarmaken van jouw wensen, je dromen, je verlangens, het begint allemaal met het innemen van jouw eigen plek. Ik geloof dat we allemaal zo'n plek hebben. Een rol op de wereld die alleen jij kunt vervullen. En ga op die plek staan en ervaar wat het betekent om in dit leven nog volledig tot bloei te komen. Dat is waarom ik Mama Mojo heb opgericht. Om jou te helpen versneld op die plek uit te komen. Dus heb je na het beluisteren van dit interview zin om vol plezier en vertrouwen, maar ook met een versnellende factor, jouw journey te gaan lopen? Check dan zeker even mamamojo.nl voor de start van het eerstvolgende ontwikkeltraject en hoe we jou helpen om op jouw eigen plek uit te komen. Ik zie je heel graag daar.